Yes, I do. Mm. Get it out of here. Welcome back to my kitchen. So part of my New Year, but not January 1st New Year, but Samhain New Year, fall preparations. I am going to do more and more pressure canning this year. That is my goal, so that I have quick, easy, inexpensive, healthy, real food meals to cook for myself. And I learned to can and preserve years ago. I watched my grandmother and my mother do it for years when I was a child. And then I did it when I had a young family. And I always was thinking, all of my canning and preserving were like quart jars and big things of beans and corn and all the things. So in my attempts to be more self-sufficient, more economical, less food waste, eat more home-cooked, whole food recipes, I am going to can, preserve. And when canning, it's kind of a misnomer. You don't use cans, you use jars, but we all know what I'm talking about, right? My pressure canner. And this cookbook was recommended to me by a friend who was a homesteader. It's Pressure Canning for Beginners and Beyond by Angie Schneider. And if I think of it, I'll put a link in the description below. What I really like about this book is that all the recipes, or most of the recipes, have the option of preserving in pint jars rather than quart jars. 90% of the time I'm cooking only for myself, maybe more than 90%. Opening a quart jar, I have to plan on eating whatever's in that jar for the rest of the week, at least 2 or 3 times. This way, pint jars, if I'm canning a soup, that's enough for me for a meal, maybe a meal and lunch the next day. So I like that. And almost everything in it, there are basic recipes on how to, make and can like individual items, side dishes and things. But the thing I like the most is that there are recipes for things that are a meal in themselves. Maybe adding noodles or rice or cream and, your dairy products to zhuzh them up. But today I am excited to try out this new recipe that I haven't tried before, to pressure can. This is key. This is pressure canning, not water bath canning. So you have to pressure can things like meats and a lot of vegetables. Water bath canning is good for high acid things like tomatoes, high sugar things like jams and jellies. That's kind of a generalization, but you get me. So today I am going to make beef street taco meat, basically carne asada, in pint jars, which are already in my canner starting to heat up. Actually going to put the lid on it, not seal it. I'm just to keep the heat in there, because I want the jars to heat up and help sanitize them. They've already been washed, and the lids are in there. So while that's doing that, and I also have a tea kettle of water going over here to just have hot water. It's always good to have a little extra hot water going for stuffing things. You might need extra water. So let me get some measuring cups. I may not need all of these, but get them out. My mortar and pestle, because some of my herbs will need to be ground a little bit. So I'm not going to read you the whole recipe, and I'm not going to post the recipe, but I do recommend this book. So if you're interested in this recipe or any others, get this book. Again, it is Pressure Canning for Beginners and Beyond by Angie Schneider. Got it on Amazon. You can probably get it other places. Start heating up your jars, basically. And then in my stock pot, I'm going to combine all my stuff. So while I'm doing this, maybe we can chit-chat about some other things, because I always like to kind of work and talk. If I can stay focused. The other thing you have to remember if you want to get into preserving food with canning or freezing, that's the other reason that I am canning more, going to hope to can more this year, is my freezer is pretty full. And a lot of times when it's time to make dinner, I'm like, oh, I have pork chops in the freezer. I have, chicken breast or something, and that's what I would like, but I forgot to take it out of the freezer. And then I don't like to use my microwave to necessarily thaw things. It just doesn't thaw as well. And so then there goes my ease of quick food. Whereas this, I open it, I chuck it in my pan, heat it up, grab some tortillas and whatever else, cilantro, lime, avocado wedges, what have you, and we're good to go. How much limes? Oh, 4 tablespoons. Okay. And I don't have to remember to take anything out of the freezer. Plus, my freezer is getting a little full. And depending on what part of the country you live in, now, if I lose power in the wintertime, like I did during the tornado last year, I was fortunate I didn't lose it for very many days. But had I been like some of my neighbors who lost it for over a week, it was pretty cold last year no, it really wasn't. During the tornado time, it had warmed up quite a bit. Prior to the tornado, it was pretty chilly. If I lose power in the wintertime, unlike when I lived in Illinois or Michigan, I couldn't stick stuff out in the garage or the shed or the back porch where it would stay frozen and cold. Maybe not hard frozen, depending on time of year and weather, but it would at least stay cold if I lost power. Here, if I lose power in the wintertime, well, definitely if I lose power in the summertime, I have less than 24 hours until my freezer starts warming up, especially if the air conditioning isn't working, which it wouldn't be. Yeah, it would be bad. So where were we at? 2 tablespoons cumin seeds. Do I have cumin? I pulled everything out, so I knew I had it. I mise en place. So I'm just gonna whereas pressure canned preserved foods, it doesn't matter. They're going to be good, and they'll last even longer than. I wish I still had a coffee grinder, but I don't. That smells good. And I could buy ground cumin, but for some reason I have cumin seeds and I don't have ground ones. And all right, I think we got action happening over here. Yeah, okay. It's gonna let that stay hot, but I don't have to keep it up that hot. But as I was saying, you don't have to do all of your preserving in July and August unless you're a homesteader or a home gardener, and that's when all of your produce is coming, is ripening and is going to go bad if you don't get something done with it. But stuff like dried beans and leek and potato soup, which is on my list of things that I'm going to do this winter, even tomatoes. You can get your tomatoes as they're coming ripe and stick them in baggies in the freezer until you're ready to can them. That's what I did last year because it was too hot. Okay, that was my cumin, and I need 2 tablespoons. Oops, I'm going to have to grind a little more. So wait until fall. Wait until winter. Wait till those dark days of January and February if you have to. But I like doing it this time of year because I do connect with my ancestors when I'm doing things like this. Now, I got to tell you, my grandma's never made carne asada, but I am going to make leek and potato soup, and that will probably make all of my Irish and Scottish and English ancestors pretty happy that I'm going to have potatoes to eat all winter long. But anyway, this time of year, it's just you're preparing. You're preparing yourself mentally and physically and spiritually, energetically. Oh yeah, that's going to be good for the cold winter months. And that's wonderful this time of year. Cumin, garlic powder. 2 teaspoons ground coriander. So why do I have whole coriander? I don't know. Something at some point must have asked for whole coriander, but it's probably way more than I need. That was fun. I knew I had a little mini food chopper processor in there somewhere. I just had to get it. We'll see if this grinds this up. Probably could be ground finer, but it smells delicious, so we're going to go with that. So now I put this on the stove and start warming it up. Okay, now I'm going to start prepping the meat and packing the jars. So it calls for 6 pounds of carne asada. And I'm going to cube it up. And trim any excess fat off of it. Yeah, there's a canine that might get a little of that, but not much of it because you can't have that much fat. And then about 1-inch chunks. So tell me in the comments, what kind of food makes you think of your ancestors? Maybe you're lucky enough that carne asada is something that one of your abuelas taught you to make, or something. You have family stories about that, or memories. Maybe, I don't know. Tell me, I'm interested. Being of Midwestern farm stock, I have to say we ate pretty boring food. Pretty, I don't know. It was good food. We always had enough, even when we didn't have a lot of money, we always had enough food, which I'm always thankful for, grateful for. And I'd like to get back. That's why I'm trying to get back to that, making my own food, growing my own food. I mean, I'll never have a side of beef and a couple hogs in my freezer or my smoker or my, whatever. That's not going to happen. But and do this, and that's a start. Start growing my own food, finding local farmers, and that brings me back to my ancestral roots. I think us Gen X people are a mixed bag. Some of us grew up with the old ways, if you will, grandparents or parents who still lived a little bit more, remembered the years before the wars, at least before World War I or World War II. I had grandparents that would have remembered both world wars, and that kind of attitude of victory gardens and make do and mend and that kind of thing. And I try to honor that in my daily life as much as possible. But some of you might be millennials or younger Gen X than I am, or didn't grow up in a place like I did, or didn't know your extended family, don't know your roots. So you may not have all of that, and that's okay too. Because there's something we have to remember when we're venerating our ancestors. We are also the ancestors. If you have children or not, you are one of the ancestors. To some future generations will look back at and say, well, my grandmother and my grandparents, were alive during the first pandemic, the pandemic of 2020. So my rechargeable microphone lost its charge at this point, and I am trying to remember days and days later. Editing Beth is trying to remember what Cooking Beth was saying. But I know what I was talking about here was being our own ancestors, being the ancestors for future generations. And talking about asking ourselves some questions, such as, what will our legacy be? How are my actions today going to help heal the world for future generations? What can I learn from the lives of my ancestors and apply to my life today? And what needs to be healed from the past generations? What generational or family trauma is affecting me, and I can heal it and I can end it so it no longer affects my descendants and generations to come in my family and in the world. These are all important things we can ask ourselves as we consider our ancestors during the Samhain season. So back to canning content, pulling the hot jars out of the canner and preparing to pack them with the raw meat, just dividing the meat up among the jars, and then when that is finished, we pour the hot liquid over that, top it up with boiling water if necessary, and put on the lids. So here are the 6 pints of finished carne asada. And you can see that the beef has cooked. These are like right out of the pressure cooker. So you can still see some bubbles happening. They haven't popped yet. Look at that. Yummy. Yummy, yummy. So these are going to cool overnight easily here on my kitchen counter. Probably in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to hear some pop, pop, pop as the pressure in the cans, in the lids, do their thing. But you can see that's going to be some delicious stuff right there. And the way to finish it, to way to eat it later, a month from now, a week from now, 6 months from now, will be to open the can,
put it into a saucepan or a cast iron skillet and heat it up, and just take a couple forks and shred it. It should be tender and juicy, and then just put it in your taco and put whatever on your tortilla you want to put on it. Or a burrito. You can make a carne asada burrito. Whatever. I cannot wait. Cannot wait. I think I might need to do some pastor, some kind of pork. But, we'll start where we're at. But look at those bubbles. Look at those bubbles. Yeah. Oh, and that one back there. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. So during the subsequent week after finishing the carne asada, I continued to can for 2 more days. And in addition to the 6 pints of carne asada, I ended up with 6 quarts of lentil and sweet potato soup, which you can see there. I also had 8 pints of beef stew, 8 pints of potato leek soup, and 14 pints of good old southern butter beans and ham. I am prepared for a very cold, long winter. You can see some of the ingredients that I used. Fresh sweet potatoes, mushrooms, green beans, onions, and herbs and spices, and the canner doing its stuff. So here is the result of a whole day's prepping and canning and a winter plus some of good eating, hearty, healthy, bone-warming eating. So in the quart jars, I have my sweet potato and lentil stew. I'm really looking forward to trying that one. I haven't tried that one before. Well, actually, I haven't tried either of these before, but that one's really new to me. Canning lentils, the spices in there are a little different. I am looking forward to seeing what that one tastes like on a cold winter's day. And then the quart jars are my beef stew. There is sweet potato beef stew, so there's carrots, sweet potatoes, green beans, and beef in there, as well as some herbs and spices, onions, garlic, thyme, some other goodies. So, but just get that. So if you enjoyed that and you enjoyed learning a little bit more about home canning, pressure canning and specifically, and saving money in the kitchen by preparing your own foods ahead of time, then please like this video and subscribe to this video. For the month of October, I am posting something every day. More cooking videos, home prep, meal prep videos, crafting and DIY videos, witchcrafting and Halloween ancestral magic type videos. You never know what you're going to get here at Spiral Path, and this month is for sure going to be an eclectic collection of videos. So like the ones you like, comment, tell me what you want to see more of, and please share this with any of your friends who also might be interested. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. Peace out. We'll talk soon.